Hi, welcome back to OMUX Studios. Today we are going to continue with bolo ties. I had a viewer request to see how I do the backside mechanism of a bolo tie. And there's a few different options. I'll show you my favorite one that I use the most. And then I'm going to go through a second option that's great for doing cold connection bolos. So we've done tips, two kinds of tips. So today, let's look at the back side of the bolo. The backing that I use the most are these two jump rings. And then you can just slide the bolo through. The trick is getting the right diameter of ring because your bolo cord comes in lots of different diameters. See if I can get this out. So it's two rings, and there's a couple of ways to do these, and I'll go through it. First, we're going to do just two separate jump rings. I have seen people just file a flat edge and then butt it up right next to each other and solder the two rings flat and then bend it. I like to put a little bit of an angle in there to begin with. And for that, you can use, if you have it, one of these little vices. And on the end that has the angle, just set it in, just leaving a little bit above, because we just want to file a little bit. Tighten that up so it just barely sticks above that, and then I'm going to file that flat. So now I've got my little edge at an angle, and then I can solder these two together. I could set them up in some hold it clay, and they'll already be at an angle, but they'll have a really good join between the two with those flat edges. The method that I use the most myself, though, is I just take my round wire and some round pliers, and I'll roll a couple, just like I'm gonna cut some jump rings. But I'll just do two. I'll wrap it around so I have two coils, and then cut that. And then I can just pull these two apart from each other. Just wedged my flat nose in there. So then I have a piece like this. I'm going to bend this one in just so that it kind of overlaps the midpoint, because I want to take my saw and cut the open in there to match the angle of the inner piece. That way I can kind of wiggle it back and forth like I'm going to close a jump ring, and there's going to be a lot more connection between those two. You can kind of see a little bit better here. And then when I move these back and forth to get them a little bit closer, and I've got a nice connection there. And then I'll solder those shut. And this is before I've soldered. And then we're going to do a set that just has a flat file, and then a set where I've angled the file to connect the two. You could prop these two rings up with Hold It clay. If you have some of this, it's great stuff. And you can also use one of these butter blocks from Jewel Tool. You can just push in your pieces. So that's what I've done today, and it'll hold them at that angle. So I'm going to flux everything up and solder with some hard solder. Oops. We'll have to go back and set that up. There we go. So now we have three options. We've got the one where we just filed a flat edge and butted the two jump rings together. This is the one that we filed an angle on each jump ring and then butted it together. And then this is my coiled piece. So now we just need to put a flat edge on here so we can solder it down to our back. Same with this one. And then this guy we're just gonna kind of bend up and leave a little bit, like I'll grab it here and then bend up so I can leave that soldered section to be a flat edge. So something like that, just so we get a little bit of lift. And then we'll file a flat surface there. Now we have a good flat surface to solder on. You can file it. If you have a belt sander, you could just pop that right up against the sander, or the Jewel Tool with the flat sanding discs. And I'm going to do that to each one of these. So we have three options for making this double ring bolo back. And here it is on the piece that I did a few months ago. And then it just loops, or weaves really, through the two rings. And then you can kind of, by bending these down, make it a little bit tighter on your back piece. And again, it's just tricky getting the right diameter of jump ring. With this one, you have a little bit of leeway because you can bend these down a little bit to make more tension. Here's two different sizes. The one loop that I did on this ring is a little bit smaller, but these two larger jump rings I did are perfect for this heavier cord. It just weaves through, and then you can bend that down a little bit when it's on your piece to create some more tension. I think I'm going to do the other backing in a separate video, and we'll just do a cold connect bolo back separately. I hope that was helpful and that you have fun making bolo ties.